Time to catch up with BYU team captain Connor Pay once again on the podcast. How is BYU spring camp progressing as they are now in the back half of their 15 allotted practices? We're talking about that with him and answering your questions as well. It's all ahead on Locked On Cougars.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you who are everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Of course, the motto is your team every day. And as such, this is your original daily podcast focused on all things BYU sports. And we are brought to you today by our friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets. If your first bet of $5 or more wins, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, pleased to welcome in once again BYU team captain and overall a great guy, Connor Pay, back to the Locked On Cougars podcast. Connor, I'm going to start here. Who you got winning your NCAA tournament bracket?
Pick the Cougs. I think for me, I picked Purdue.
Okay.
To win mine, as much as I wanted to pick BYU. But hey, if they all of a sudden can make threes, we could do some damage in this tournament. So I have them in all of my brackets. I have them going to at least the Sweet 16, though. So
all right, so you have them taking down Illinois. You think in that round of 32 and punching their ticket to get a rematch against Iowa State?
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, I think some Cougar fans are excited to hear that. All right. Obviously, it's a big time of the year with college basketball and then NCAA tournament upcoming. Were you a guy who grew up watching those games religiously? Were you? What does the NCAA tournament mean to you in your life?
It's been huge. Basketball is my mom's favorite sport by like a mile, and so March Madness was a big deal around our house all the time. You know, no matter what my mom was doing, like the games were on all day long. And even like when Austin, my youngest brother, was born, you know, he was born during the tournament. And my mom was watching the game and she didn't want to miss the game. So she told the doctor, she's like, we're having this baby at halftime. It's like, I'm not missing the second half of this game. And she did it. They had the baby at halftime and she got to watch the second half.
Okay.
So,
okay, Mama Pay.
She's a diehard. She's a diehard March Madness fan.
That is dedication to like the nth degree. That is awesome. I did not expect that. That's awesome to hear. So kind of funny that she has a family full of football players, but basketball is her love, it looks like.
I know. She chose to marry an obese guy. And so that doesn't like, you know, when you spit the kids out, you know, the odds weren't in our favor on the basketball side of things.
Well, let's clarify one thing. You're not a bad basketball player in your own right. I know your younger brother, Austin, in particular, is quite the adept basketball player, and I'm assuming that Trevor also played some.
Yeah, a little bit. I think Austin didn't end up playing this year, okay. But so I guess that makes me the best one.
Okay.
But,
there you go.
But no, we did play basketball, but we aren't exactly what I would call built for it.
Well,
like but Coach Dave Evans was my high school coach. Ended up at Wasatch Academy, and then with RSL, he knew how to manage me pretty well. He's like, okay, I know I got 10 to 12 minutes out of this guy a game, and he was very timely. He's like, hey, go in, hit a couple threes, foul some people really hard, and I'll get you out, and then we'll do it again in a few minutes. I'm like, sounds good. I can do that.
Okay, so I just realized that Connor Pay was the Lone Peak version of the Kafusi boys at BYU. Remember Bronson and Corbin, when they played at BYU for the BYU basketball team, that's exactly what they did. They'd go in, maybe get a putback or two, but I can tell you this much. Bronson Kafusi was like an enforcer, and Corbin wasn't far behind him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can put myself on their level. That's disrespectful to the Kafusis, but I guess you could draw some type of parallel.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on with BYU football. Obviously, you guys are still in the midst of spring camp. You're on the back half of camp. Your 15 allotted practices. Give me a sense overall of how you think things have gone to this point.
I'm really happy with how it's gone so far. I mean, obviously, there's obviously learning curves, with a new coach, new system, but it's been awesome. And I've mentioned last time we talked about how intuitive Coach Woods' system is, and like kind of once you know how to handle something, you know how to handle it. And so I think we've made some improvements in that area. Didn't have our best day today. We had some mental lapses today that we just weren't on the same page on a few things, and just so that gives us some good things to go and correct tomorrow. But overall, spring, I feel like it's been a positive kind of trending upwards, and it's never a perfect line, right? It's going to look kind of like this, down a little bit, up a little more, down a little bit, right? And but I'm happy with where things are. It feels a lot better. Everything's a lot more cohesive. I think that comes in part with Coach Woods being the run game coordinator. Mm-hmm. Having that coordinator title, where now he can kind of manage, help manage, how the tight ends are blocking certain things, how the running backs are making their reads and cuts, and how the quarterbacks are reading in the run game, and kind of just having that cohesiveness has been a huge thing, and it's made everybody play better. The tight ends are playing awesome, the quarterbacks are playing awesome, even the receivers in the run game are blocking really well. And I think that is in large part just because for the most part right now, everyone knows what they're supposed to do. Like we may make some physical mistakes, mm-hmm. and you may miss your assignment every once in a while, and those things happen. We can correct those things, but for the most part, everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing, and everyone's been on the same page. So it's been, in my mind, it's been really positive. Still a long way to go these last couple of weeks, but positive for sure.
Now, I do want to kind of point something out. When we're out there as a media corps, we've probably watched a grand total of, I'd say, like an hour and a half worth of practices. So it's a snapshot compared to what you guys are actually doing, guys. I know we're watching about 20 minutes of what is typically a 2-hour practice. But one thing I have noticed, and I want to get your thought on this, is that the team, I'm talking both offensively and defensively, when there is a big play, for example, there was an interception by Josh Singh at the end of Monday's practice that obviously the defense was going wild about. But just a few plays before that, JoJo Phillips had an incredible touchdown catch over Evan Johnson, and you on the offense were going hog wild. I've noticed that you guys have really gotten into it and like propping up your guys on either side of the football, and I think it's actually been a really, really fun dynamic.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of juice, and that's one thing that we as a team wanted to emphasize, like, because like it was just it was a tough year last year, kind of down in the dumps a little bit most of the season. And we wanted to change that, where it's like, hey, you may have a bad play, bad series, bad practice, whatever. Next day is a new day, right? Go give full effort and have fun. We get to play football. It's a privilege to play this game. And we're trying to treat every day like that, where it's like there's one thing could happen and you would not be on this field right now. You'd just be a regular student in college. And so just kind of being really grateful for the opportunity to play, I think has been a big thing. And and it's kind of having respect for the game, right? Like it's this, you're on hallowed ground, being able to play college football, and it expects you to bring the juice and bring the energy a little bit. You owe that to the game as a player. And so I think it's made practice more fun. It's upped the intensity a little bit. And yeah, I get a little bit pissed off, when the defense is hoopering and hollering, like, how can we not throw a screen pass over a 4-foot tall guy? And then now we get a pick. Like, I don't know. That was a little frustrating, but no, I'm just kidding. I love Josh. He's one of my favorite dudes on the team, but he's had a good spring ball, and that was a really good play. I don't know, for him to go up and tip that ball and then run under it and catch it was pretty. As much as I hated that play, I got to give him props. That was a good play.
Well,
impressive play.
I was as stunned as anybody. I was kind of watching down the far end of the field, and I kind of watched him reach up and he tipped the ball. I'm like, okay, pass breakup. And all of a sudden he settles underneath the ball. I'm like, holy smokes, he's going to intercept that bad boy. And off he went. But, the thing is, it's been really fun because I was standing down there when you guys scored the touchdown, and I was standing kind of near the defensive players. And trust me, there was plenty of grumbling about the offense doing their thing. So it's been kind of fun to back and forth, it seems like, between the team. All right. I've got a couple more questions with regards to how spring camp has gone. We'll also get to some listener questions as we roll on. We'll talk about what Connor expects from the alumni game later this week. All that as we continue on right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Now, Nissan is here for our March Madness bracket highlight this week, and it's brought to you once again by our friends at Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like all of the 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. Let's talk about the Yukon Huskies for a minute. They can only be described as an armada, the top-seeded team in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder they've landed the top overall seed, and of course, they're one of the favorites to win it all, despite 4 of the Power 6 conference champions standing in their way in the East region. Funny enough, BYU also in that region. And the crazy thing is, you look at some of the projections, BYU is a 6th seed. He's actually got the 5th best odds, or maybe the fifth best odds, to win that region. Obviously, Yukon is the favorite, but the best part is no matter what it is, you can take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure with our friends at Nissan. Shop them today at nissanusa.com. Once again, that's shop nissanusa.com. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Amazon Fire TV. It is, of course, your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis that offers a viewing experiences that bring it to smart TVs, as well as the Amazon Fire TV stick you can plug into your existing TV that gives you access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. And whether it's the opening weekend of baseball upcoming, the college basketball tournament this weekend, you're going to want to have a Fire TV option available to you guys. They've created the Fire TV Channels app as well that deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all of it for free. That includes all of us here at the Locked On Podcast Network. And of course, the big pro leagues and college conferences are in there as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest things in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and plenty more. So check out Fire TV channels on your Fire TV or Alexa devices today. If you've not done so already, I would encourage you guys to do it. Trust me on it. It's an incredible product. Go to amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Once again, that's amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Continuing on now with Connor Pay, BYU team captain. And Connor, here's the thing about this weekend is they're going to have Alumni Day, which hundreds of alumni will come back to BYU, and they'll be watching practice. You guys aren't going to have a traditional spring game due to the fact that the field out at LaVell Edwards Stadium is beginning to be replaced. But there is that alumni game on Friday. Did you go to it last year? What do you make of the alumni game overall?
Yeah, I went last year. It's so much fun because those are the dudes I grew up watching. Mm-hmm. You know, like we moved to Utah when I was 8, and we've had season tickets to BYU games ever since. Okay. And so really from 2008 on, I was at almost every home game. Okay. And so, you know, it's pretty fun for me. It brings back a lot of memories watching some of those guys play in LaVell again. Hoping we don't have any serious injuries this year like we did last year. That's the only other problem when you get these old men together is there's going to be some hamstrings a little bit, and hamstrings manageable, but hopefully we don't have another Achilles. Let's not have Max do that again. Yeah, so
tell Max to cool it with the celebrating. We'll be just fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But the funny thing is he's back this year, and he says he's looking forward to it more than ever. So good.
I know. Dude, that's just the competitor in him, man. That never goes away.
I was going to say, Max is one of the consummate competitors. Anybody who says otherwise, I will argue with them and disagree vehemently. He is a guy that he was like the apex type competitor. Come on. When you make the statements that he made sometimes on the record about certain other universities in this state, kind of shows you what kind of competitor he is. So,
right.
All right. So yeah, obviously that's coming up this weekend. And by the way, if anybody listening and or watching this wants to go out to that, it's at the old Provo High campus, their football field out there. Their grandstands aren't necessarily as plentiful as LaVell Edwards Stadium, but there's gonna be plenty of seating and it should be a fun event. No doubt about that. And the only question I've got, Connor, is they got to do something for you guys. Cause obviously you're not too far off from being an alumnus yourself from BYU football. They got, I don't mean to rub it in, I'm just saying, you got to do something for you guys as linemen when you come back. They're letting all these pretty boys, the quarterbacks and the running backs and the DBs run around out there. They got to do something for the linemen as well.
I don't know why they won't let me play quarterback, man.
Well, that needs to actually happen because I have seen your arm. Anybody's seen the?
I've been asking for years. I've been asking Aaron for 4 years to give me a chance.
We run like a tackle eligible lateral play of some sort. Can we get that on the playbook?
It's like, man, come on, man. Like I think I made a joke about this last time. We got 10 dudes in that QB room. You got room for one more, man.
Hey, they did have one exit the program according to some reports. So, hey, you may be able just to kind of slot in there and fill that extra.
Maybe. But no, I mean, it's funny. A-Rod says every year, he's like, I've got it. He's like, I've got, and he'll drop the play. Be like, sweet. And then we never practice it or run it. And I'm like, come on, man.
Okay, so you've never actually even practiced it, though? I just wonder if it actually – okay.
No. I've tried, but also it's like, in reality, when would we ever actually run it? And especially, it was easier when I was playing guard.
Okay.
Last year, because it's a little easier to get a guard out, in space a little bit, where you could do maybe like a throwback type pass.
Sure.
At center, it's a little more difficult.
You'd have to really, you'd have to do some crazy things to get a center. It feels like into that.
Exactly. So it'll probably never happen, unfortunately, but it's fun for me to dream about.
Next time I talk to A-Rod, I'm going to ask him what the play is called at minimum. That's all I care about. I just want to know what the name of it is. So
that's a great question. I want to know that too.
We'll see what we can find out. All right. I want to get to a question here that kind of goes in line with something I was going to ask you about. And it comes from our good friend Riker. He's one of our listeners. He says, how does Connor feel about the offensive line and team in general, and how the overall the team is doing compared to last year at this point in spring camp?
Night and day. Different. I feel like more so on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like defense is similar to how it was last year, just because same staff, same system that they're running. And whereas for the offense, it's kind of a little bit of rejuvenation, I think, just with Coach Woods being here, Coach Gilbride coming in, and and everyone kind of, getting behind Coach Woods' run game system and just behind A-Rod's offense in general, and just trying to implement it and realizing like, hey, if we do this right, we could be really good at this. And I think that has given us kind of an energy. And so I think for that reason, I feel really good about where the team is at progressing through spring. I think we need to double down on the intensity and the urgency for these last 2 weeks, especially after you scrimmage a couple times and spring ball's coming to an end. It can be easy to kind of like lull through the last couple practices. We gotta do a good job of keeping that intensity up, to set ourselves up for a good summer and then going into fall camp. So, but it definitely feels much different than it did last spring.
Now, you mentioned the scrimmage. You guys had one last past Saturday. If I'm not mistaken, it was the first one of spring. Kalani, when he got on the Zoom call, I know that you were on the Zoom afterwards as well. He kind of pointed out that he felt like the offense kind of won the day overall. Give me your assessment of how things overall went.
Yeah, I think probably if you look at the day as a whole, we had the upper hand a little bit. We put a few good drives together, and then scored on most of them. And I think the biggest thing for us was, we ran the ball.
Okay.
And that was a big deal for us. As an O-line, we wanted to go in there in a live setting, in an actual drive, establish the run game and run the ball down the field. And I feel like we were able to do that. And that opened up the pass game. And, because that's been the biggest emphasis for us as an offense, is fixing the run game. And so I think, looking at it from that lens, I feel like we've definitely had a really good scrimmage last Saturday. So
Well, and Coach Roderick, he talked to the media on Monday, and he pointed out the fact that he's like, our whole emphasis this spring is to get back to running the football. And he essentially pointed back to he wants to do like what you guys did in 2020, 2021, 2022. And I've talked on this podcast about the fact that, and I've had some people ask me like, well, Jake, should they get rid of the zone blocking scheme? And I said, here's the thing. The zone blocking scheme for BYU yielded the best single rushing season for a running back in program history with Tyler Algier. Just so happened last year kind of showed the complete opposite, where it was actually maybe it's at its worst that it's been. But it sounds like that you guys have made a concerted effort at getting back to making that your bread and butter. And it sounds like Coach Woods, Coach Roderick, and the rest of the offensive coaching staff is, I guess, for lack of a better term, hell bent on making sure it happens.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. Because, it's any scheme that doesn't work a few times, people are going to say we should stop running it. If we run counter a bunch and we got stuffed on a few counter plays, people would just say, why are they running counter? That's so stupid. Or if we score a couple touchdowns on counter, they'd be like, why aren't they running counter every play? And so it just comes down to how you execute the plays. And I think especially during that year with Tyler in 2021, we were all on the same page every play. Mm-hmm. Tyler knew exactly what we were going to do, and we knew exactly what he was going to do. So he could set up our combo blocks, make the cuts, and he was a fantastic running back. That makes an O-line's life a lot easier, because when we screwed something up, he could make us right and still get 4 or 5 yards. And when we did it right and he did it right, now we're talking 20, 30-yard chunks. And so I think we saw flashes of that in those last 2 or 3 games of the season last year of what we could have done. Being all on the same page like that. And so I think definitely trying to get back to, because that opens up the entire playbook for A-Rod. That's when he knows he can go, he can trust us as an O-line and trust the running backs and trust the tight ends. If we need to go get a few yards, that opens up the whole playbook for him. And so, that's obviously the goal, is to be able to get back to that where we can kind of run the ball at will. Because that 2021 year especially, or 2022, whatever it was, or 2021, mm-hmm. I think we ended 7 games that season in 4-minute mode. Whereas, there was even some games we had 7.5 minutes on the clock when we got the ball, and we ended in victory. Just running the ball down their throat, 7, 8, 9-man boxes, still running the ball. We want to be able to get back to being able to impose our will like that.
Well, and that's the thing about it. You say when you guys are both on the same page, it yields like remember the run up the gut for Tyler against Boise State, that once he broke the line of scrimmage, it was 70 yards to pay dirt. It's an incredible thing when it works at its best. And it sounds like you guys are making sure you're getting back to doing more of that. And it's good to hear that you guys were back doing that in that scrimmage on Saturday. All right. We will finish up this edition of our special Locked On Cougars edition with Connor Pay here in a moment. We got a couple of more listener questions, some really good ones, actually, both football and non-football related. We'll get to all those as we roll on right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Say goodbye to your busted brackets, because FanDuel is letting you bet on every game of the NCAA tournament, my friends. Whether you're betting on big upset or one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sports book. And the best part is you can have fun along the way with having an extra $200 in your pocket. New customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. If you want to put some money on BYU to beat Duquesne, you do that, you'll have $200 extra added to your account just like that. It's an incredible way to have some fun with the NCAA tournament. That's $200 used on point spreads, money lines, even can pick who's going to win it all overall. Connor says he's picking Purdue. I'm leaning more towards UConn myself, but nonetheless, no matter who you think is going to win it all, you have the opportunity to cash in on that. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on the college hoops until they cut down the nets. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started with our friends over at FanDuel. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Utah Community Credit Union. Now, Utah Community Credit Union is here as they have upgraded their checking accounts by enhancing it with more benefits, more savings, and more online protections than ever before. A lot more. Paired with the most advanced and comprehensive mobile banking tools, Elevated Checking is a must-have financial product packed with lifestyle, security, and financial benefits. And the best part is the security benefits alone include identity monitoring that actively scans thousands of databases for early detection of possible identity theft, credit monitoring that alerts you to any changes to your credit score, and also dark web monitoring monitoring, that alerts you if your personal information is exposed. And they also have identity theft resolution with up to $10,000 in ID theft reimbursement, a specialist to help you regain control of your life. Elevated checking is free. You do any one of the following with our friends at UCCU. Use your debit or credit card 15 times or more a month, make a monthly direct deposit of $500 or more, or maintain an average daily balance of $1,500. Otherwise, elevated checking is just $6 a month. So visit uccu.com to open that elevated checking account online, or stop by any branch in person to open an account in person. It's all courtesy of your friends over at UCCU. Love where you bank. Continuing on now with Connor Pay, and if you would like to be a person that can ask a question to Connor, you got to join our Locked On Cougars Insider group. It's a great way to interact with the show, get updates from the podcast, and otherwise sent directly to your phone via text message. Join us today. Click the link below in the show notes, and you can join us on our Locked On Cougars Insider group. A really fun way to interact with the show. We're actually going to do a bracket challenge, Connor, and see who comes out on top, and we'll see if anybody picks Purdue like you. Maybe we can get you in on it and have some fun as well. But
sure.
Nonetheless, we'll have some fun along the way as the brackets play out here. All right. So as we wind down on this edition of the podcast, Connor, got a question that came in from one of our insiders. Andrew asked this, Connor, and he really literally wrote this out. I'm going to read this word for word, Connor. It's a great question that he laid out, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. Connor, BYU is showing that it can consistently put linemen in the NFL, and I would expect you to be next on a growing list of those guys. With the limited time you have spent with Coach Woods, is he someone that you would recommend to your brother or any other recruit as a coach that will help you get to the next level in the NFL?
That is a great question, and absolutely. It's been I've been pretty open about how much of a difference I already feel like he's made for me as an individual player, and how much I feel like I've learned in the last 2.5, 3 months that he's been here. And so I would absolutely, recommend that, to my brother and to any other recruit, because he's gonna move heaven and earth to develop you as a player. And that's something that I really appreciate. It's uncomfortable sometimes, right? He's gonna, and there's a couple times today where I screwed a couple things up, and he was on me, and he was in my face and getting after me a little bit, but that's what you need, right? As a player. And so, I'd absolutely recommend it. Obviously, just trying to get my brother down here a little bit just to kind of see him coach, so Austin can kind of, figure out what he wants to do for himself, because at the end of the day, it's his life and his decision. But, obviously I'd love it if he came to BYU. But we'll see where he ends up. But yes, to answer the question, I absolutely would recommend Coach Woods to him and to all the other recruits who come through.
That's good to hear. And I think a lot of people out there, and I can say this, I saw Austin there not too long ago. He is around the BYU football program. He's checking things out, and he put out a graphic not too long ago that, man, your brother's got options everywhere. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he does. It's true. I'm happy for him.
It's really fun thing to do, obviously. All right. One final question here. It comes from our good friend Robert. It says, Connor, what has been your favorite class at BYU that is not part of your major?
Not part of my major.
So outside the Tanner building, essentially. Okay.
Well, I think my favorite class that I've ever taken at BYU is MCOM.
Okay.
Where it is business communications, but I don't think it's I think it was an elective. I don't think it was a requirement for my major. So it is a business class. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was in the Tanner building, but I don't know if does that count or
no. Well, and I think MCOM typically stands for mass communication. So that trust me, I work in mass communications. Trust me, it's as much a business strategy as anything else, literally in everyday life. So
sure, exactly. And David Smales was the professor.
Okay.
And I still text with him like to this day. He was so awesome. Adjunct professor. Okay. It was a night class. He's the leadership trainer for executives and companies all over the country. So he's like flying around doing all this stuff. Then he'd fly back to Utah for our class on Thursday nights.
Okay.
And it was just his insights into, how to properly communicate with people in the business world and just in your employment environment in general, how to approach interviews, how to approach talking to your employer about challenges, pay, all kinds of stuff. Like, it was just so many applicable skills, I feel like, in that class. And he was just a phenomenal teacher. He was so real. And he would just basically take what we were learning that day and being like, well, here's what I did 2 days ago with this company, and like, this is how it worked, to kind of illustrate the principles. And so it was awesome. I owe him a round of golf. So I'm going to go play with him this spring and catch up with him. But I think that was probably been my favorite class I've had at BYU is MCOM with David Smales.
Well, as a guy who's kind of learned a lot of those lessons on his own, just kind of the school of hard knocks, just the trial and error, I would have loved to have had a class like that. So I think that's a very valuable one. And by the way, you talk about golf. When are we going to see the Connor Pay Invitational? I know that Cody there launching.
I would love it. I would love it. I mean, I'm terrible. I'm getting better though, because this will be like my second summer really playing.
Okay.
Like 2.5 years ago, I bought myself some golf clubs and I started playing. And I'm decent now. I'm like an 18, 19 handicap now. And so, like, I love playing. I spent so much money on golf last summer. But I would love some type of invitational. That'd be so fun.
Hey, here's the best part, Connor. When you host those like Cody's going to, you don't have to be a good golfer. All you do is walk around and hobnob with everybody.
I know. I need to talk to Cody and figure out how I can get put on for that tournament. Because I don't want to pay his entry fee.
Just let me be a part of it. I'll be a sponsor of a hole of some sort. Yeah, no.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Connor, appreciate you taking the time as always. Anything else you'd like to pass along to Cougar fans ahead of our next visit down the road?
No, just cheer hard for the boys on the basketball team, man, and just let's hope we can make a run, right? That's what we're going to be doing these next couple months, or a couple weeks. But other than that, just spring ball's going good, man. We're moving in the right direction.
Well, I think
obviously some growing pains, but with a new system and everything. But I think the results will be good. So.
Well, that's good to hear. And obviously, we will catch up with you as spring gets closer to wrapping up, obviously, and we'll get more of an insight as you kind of look back on things the next time we chat. And obviously, we are rooting for the Cougars. It's been since Jimmer Fredette, since BYU advanced in the tournament. So it'd be fun to see him make a run.
Long time.
I know, it's been a minute. Absolutely. Let's just put it this way. Last time BYU made a run in the NCAA tournament, Connor, I was an intern. I've been doing radio full time for 13 years. That shows you how long it's been. So,
jeez, yeah, we got to do some damage, and this team could do
it. They have the opportunity. There's no doubt about that. Well, Connor, thanks as always for the time, and we will catch up.
Yeah, of course. Right? Thanks, Jake. You're the man.
All right, that is Connor Pay. So a big thank you to all of you once again for supporting the podcast. As always, thank you for making it your first listen of the day. Thank you to all of you who are everydayers as well, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day, and as such, we'll be back tomorrow getting you ready. More BYU basketball talk. We stepped away to talk some football today, but we'll have more in-depth look at Duquesne, what to expect as BYU takes on the Dukes in the first round of the NCAA tournament. That's all coming up tomorrow, right here on Locked On Cougars.